this is Shelly Diaz from School Library Journal, and I am the SLJ Reviews Manager and the editor of SLJ Teen Newsletter. And we're here with Marie Lu, the fabulous Marie Lu of Legend series fame, and she is here to talk about Warcross, published by Putnam Young Readers, an imprint of Penguin Young Readers, and it's publishing October 3rd, 2017. So Marie, can you tell us a little bit about Warcross and what inspired you to write it?
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for having me. Warcross is set in the very near future, and it's about this girl living in New York City who is a bounty hunter, and she's kind of down on her luck and running short on funds when one day she gets a call from a young billionaire who is looking to hire her for a job, and things kind of spiral from there. And it was very much an ode to all of my favorite things. I'm such a huge fan of technology and of video games and everything related to that, and geek culture and nerd culture, and so it has a lot of those elements in it.
That's awesome. Speaking of fantasy, sci-fi, so what are some of your favorite YA fantasy sci-fi books written by people of color or from a more marginalized culture?
Well, I just finished reading Forest of a Thousand Lanterns, which is coming out this fall, I think. It's by Julie C. Dow. It is a beautiful and wonderful retelling of the Snow White, the evil queen myth, but set in this ancient fantasy Chinese setting. And it is so fun to read. I love a good anti-hero, so that's been a huge favorite of mine. Flame in the Mist by Renee Attiah is coming out in a couple of weeks, I think. And it is gorgeous. It is 47 Ronin style, set in feudal Japan, about this girl who dresses up as a boy to infiltrate this clan. And it's just action-packed and lush and romantic. Everything that people love about Renee is in this book. Absolutely loved it. Binti by Nnedi Okorafor is one of my favorite science fictions too. It's so different from everything else I've ever read, and it is action-packed and dark and violent and interesting, and I loved everything about it. Cindy Pon has a sci-fi cyberpunk coming out this summer called Want, which I adored. It's set in a dark, futuristic Taipei that is kind of smoky and smoggy, and it's about this boy who is from the have-nots. Like, the site is divided into haves and have-nots, and it's just wonderfully action-packed sci-fi adventure set in this glorious retelling of Taipei, Taiwan. So I absolutely love that. And Melinda Lowe is an amazing author. I've loved all of her books. Ash was her first. And I am really excited for A Line in the Dark, which is her upcoming one coming out this year. And I cannot wait for it. I think she does suspense really, really well, in addition to fantasy. And A Line in the Dark is definitely in the suspense world. I've loved all of her fantasy work. And I'm really excited for it. There's so many good things coming out right now.
Yeah, those are all awesome. And I was wondering, and I know this is a hard question, what is your all-time favorite book by a person of color or marginalized culture?
There was a book that impacted me very deeply when I was a kid, and that was Journey to Topaz. It's not science fiction or fantasy, but it is historical, and it was about the internment camps, the Japanese internment camps, and about a girl's journey through that. And I have such a deep recollection of that book because it was the first time I had ever seen a person of color starring in a book, ever. And I was so drawn to that because before that I would just assume that the norm was to not see people anywhere close to myself reflected in books, and that was the first time that I had ever seen otherwise. And it kind of opened my eyes, and I really appreciate that book for that. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to have to look that one up. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, it was back in the 90s, I think. Yeah, but I loved it.
And what was the last book that you read by a person of color or marginalized culture?
The last one I read was Flame in the Mist, which I literally finished like 3 days ago, and it's still kind of dwelling with me. And it's just so good. It's so good. I hope everybody reads it. Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if you can answer this, but what are you currently working on?
I'm currently working on two things. I'm working on the sequel to Warcross. I think that is due out next year sometime. And I'm also working on Batman, which has been really fun. I'm doing, a young adult Batman novel about 18-year-old Bruce Wayne. It's coming out next year. And it's basically about what it's like to be 18-year-old Bruce before Batman comes into his life, and when his trust funds have just opened, Gotham City has more villains coming out. How does he juggle being a young adult in Gotham City? And it's been fun and weird to be Batman for a while. Yeah.
Well, that sounds really exciting, both of those titles, and I'm looking forward to reading those. And thanks so much, Marie, for coming out and talking with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.